Boss locks us in until we're allowed to leave, not on the clock. OSHA violation? They do this whenever we close. Sometimes upwards of 20-ish minutes, and they'll hold up 47 of us. When I asked to leave, they said they keep us all in and we all leave at the same time as a safety measure. We're all grown adults. I don't understand why we can't be trusted to make our way after a shift has ended. A key holder is the only person who can open the door to let anyone leave, as it is locked. Also, there is a back door as well, all the way on the other side of the building, that will sound an alarm throughout the entire building if I were to leave through it. I found the following online on the OSHA site. Is the situation described an OSHA violation? How would you recommend I approach my boss about this next time this happens? 29 CFR 1910.36 D. 1. Requires that employees must be able to open an exit route door from the inside at all times without keys, tools, or special knowledge. A device such as a panic bar that locks only from the outside is permitted on exit discharge doors. Quote. If this isn't the right one to source, what is? I live in the USA. Should I report to Department of Labor? Call fire marshal? Contact OSHA? IDK if this is a thing, or if I contact the doll? Refuse to clock out until I'm left out. Some combination of the above? Thanks in advance for the help. Edit. For anyone wondering, this is not false imprisonment, and the OSHA law I cited cannot be used to defend my stance, since there is the unlocked back door which will sound an alarm if I choose to leave through it. If you're not allowed to leave, then you're on the clock. If they tell you to clock out, then leave. If they stop you from leaving, call the cops. As a side note, words don't stop you from leaving. They could theoretically ask you to stay off the clock, but you are not obligated to humor them. If they threaten to fire you or discipline you for leaving, ask for the policy in writing and give that written policy straight to your local labor board. When I had to close, and before I was a manager, I had to wait around for the manager to close out the registers and start running stuff on the computers. I couldn't leave until they did, but I was on the clock the entire time. If you are there, then you should be getting paid because you are on the clock. They can't make you clock out and then keep you there. Stay clocked in until allowed to leave. If you are under the control of your employer, you need to be getting paid. It's a fire code violation everywhere I have ever lived. Report it to the Fire Department Code Enforcement Division. The only exception is hospitals or prisons. Please give us an update on this when you sort it out. I'd ask them if they want a situation like Home Depot just had to deal with. It cost them $72.5 million. Home Depot engaged to wait lawsuit. Bottom line, they have only three options. A. You're holding me up and you're paying me to wait. B. I'm leaving the very second I clock off. C. I'm calling the police to arrest them all for kidnapping and wage theft. Right after I call the NLRB and the press. Disclaimer. IANAL. Start with your local labor board to see what laws are being violated, if any. Then contact HR and tell them what's happening. It's entirely possible they don't know what your management is doing and will come down on them. One thing to remember about HR is that their job is actually to keep the company out of legal trouble, and that often extends to addressing labor law violations within the company. If that doesn't work, get together with your coworkers and file individual complaints with the labor board, because that'll get them to come investigate. But whatever you do, make damn sure management doesn't find out you went and complained. Because while whistleblower laws do protect you from retaliation, they only work if you can prove a firing or disciplinary action was direct retaliation. and that usually requires litigation. And it's not guaranteed. The person telling you to exit through the emergency exit is just wrong. Don't do that. Don't clock out until you are allowed to leave. If they dock this time, or fail to pay this time, report it to the Department of Labor for missing, unpaid wages. Don't stamp your feet, and don't give them easy cause to point to as to why they terminated you. Hence why you don't use the fire exit. If you do anything more, do it in writing, such as an email asking why you are not paid while waiting to be released from the worksite once you are done with your shift. Lol. One of my old bosses tried this. Only a manager could access the door, was locked via a PIN code, and she would routinely make us wait 2,030 minutes for her to open up. The time clock was near the door, so we all stopped signing out till we were let out. It took a week of doing this before she got rolled over the coals and was told under no circumstances was she to not be at that door holding it open for everyone on time ever again. About a week later I was given the codes to the door too. I'd report the situation to the police and try to get your boss arrested for false imprisonment. Have a talk with the fire marshal or fire chief as well. The inability to leave due to all doors being locked is a fire code violation. If you still have access to the fire doors, which are usually equipped with panic hardware, use them to get out and let the boss answer to the fire department. If you are off the clock, you have no obligation to remain. Contact the State Department of Labor or Labor Board and make a wage theft claim. You may not win, because Amazon workers who had to spend half an hour getting into and out of the warehouses due to having to go through a security checkpoints on the way in and out lost their lawsuit for overtime pay for the waiting time. Though Walmart lost a lawsuit over locking people into the stores and forcing them to work off the clock. Home Depot was just sued in California for something like this, I believe. Triangle Shirt Waste Factory. That's not just an OSHA violation. Pretty sure that's a federal felony. I was working at Sam's Club and they used to do this. This was back in the 90s. My forklift driver sat down a poorly wrapped pallet of pickle jars. When they started to fall, considering they were still wrapped, he thought he could get it under control. Nope. Jars start falling and shattering everywhere. He ended up getting his wrist cut and bleeding everywhere. We had to wait 45 minutes for our drunk supervisor to drive to work to open the gate while the ambulance sat outside. The emergency doors had sat unused for so long that they had rusted shut and we couldn't get them open. The minute we got my forklift driver into the ambulance, I turned around and told my boss I quit. There's no way in hell I'll ever work in that kind of situation again. I don't care what the company thinks. It should be illegal to lock people in buildings, period. If you're being required to stay there, you should be clocked in. If they are requiring you to stay and clock out, that's a labor law violation. You punch out when you are allowed to leave. If you are required to stay, they are required to pay. The everyone leaves together rule is not a bad thing. Think of somebody else who might not feel safe, or maybe there was an incident in the past that made them create this rule. Ask them why. Check with the National Labor Relations Board. They have rules against this. Do you work for Triangle Shirtwaist? I worked at a large retailer that used to do this all the time. Someone reported them to the Department of Labor and a few years later we all got back pay for every closing shift we had worked. In California, the company I work for got sued for something similar and had to pay for back wages for time people had to wait to get let out. Home Depot just got sued for this and had to make sweeping changes to their policy in all stores across the country.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.